Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff J. Brown, China Rising Radio Sino-land in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Before we get started, please make a donation to China Rising Radio Sino-land below via PayPal with the email indicated, as well as there's also a Fundrazr link, so take your choice. I would really appreciate it. My poor wife is a keyboard widow, and she deserves it, not me. This one is entitled, "Is Uriah Heep speaking Wuhan coronavirus truth to power, or blowing Sino-sci-fi out his backside?" Pictured above, Metallica Man, also known as Uriah Heep, on his homepage. I'm writing the following article about my interview with Uriah Heep, which was based on an article he recently posted covering the Wuhan coronavirus, which I will abbreviate WCV, outbreak. The links are here. To say that our interview caused a buzz and a stir is an understatement. I've never had a YouTube video get over 10,000 views, but this one has already done it in a week. While my China Rising Radio Sino-land page view numbers would surprise many people, the interview and transcript pages are also above average. All told, in only 1 week, tens of thousands of friends, fans, and followers around the world have tuned in one way or another. So far, so good. However, soon after I started to get detractors contacting me telling me that Uriah Heep is not credible. He tells tall tales on his website and offers no proof for his claims in our interview. The problem was that these detractors were not unknown to me, but fellow authors and journalists, all of whom I like, admire, and respect. Over the years, I got to meet a number of them, and we have become good friends in the process. So suddenly, our interview became professional and personal. Then, as if by diabolical design, after writing publicly for 10 years, posting 600 articles, and publishing 3 books, I had the untimely fortune of using what turned out to be a fake news article about WCV. Just a couple of days before this happened, I was smiling with light-hearted schadenfreude about Joaquin the Joker Phoenix getting taken in by Russian comedians portraying Greta Thunberg. In my case, it was the online Russian version of The Onion. So hats off to Russians' droll sense of humor, as they obviously enjoy a good laugh. I can live with journalistically batting 599 out of 600. While Joaquin was all over the mainstream media, I was able to pull my article, podcast, and social media just a few hours after posting when someone brought it to my attention. Nonetheless, back office, the timing right after the Uriah Heep interview could not have been more devastating perception-wise vis-a-vis my circle of friends and colleagues. Suddenly, I was being politely and indirectly told that I was a dupe. Coming from people whom I like and care about, this was very hurtful. Back to Metallica Man, my colleagues wrote that he could not be credible because of his long, very colorful autobiography. It's incredibly entertaining and a masterful piece of stream of consciousness prose, including a mesmerizing pastiche of 20th century science fiction tropes. Ray Bradbury, Isaac Asimov, aliens being subjected to mind control, and on and on and on. Okay. Yet creating a public persona has been standard operating procedure since the first tribal chief took over the village throne 10,000 years ago. Actors, musicians, writers, journalists, athletes, politicians, business leaders, doctors, preachers, anybody who puts themselves in the public eye is destined to cultivate an image, a persona that may or may not even be close to the real truth. There are too many to cite. Nevertheless, a prime example is basketball star Dennis Rodman. In front of a camera lens, he's totally outrageous. But from what I understand, when the camera is no longer pointed at him, he's a mild-mannered gentleman. However, like every other person in the limelight, this does not take away from his talents in professional production. Creating a larger-than-life public persona does not disqualify someone from creating quality work or being knowledgeable and well-informed, Metallica Man included. In our interview, Uriah Heep talked about 2 points that my colleagues felt needed to pass the smell test. 1. The use of drones to spread African swine flu across China, and 2. Fake U.S. NGOs collecting thousands of Chinese people's DNA to be hauled back home for evil intent. So I asked him to send me some links in either Chinese or English. Here are the links to the drone story, all in English, including the South China Morning Post. Once I learned from these articles that in Chinese these criminals are called Stirfry gangs or Chaozhutuan, I searched this term on the Chinese version of Google called Baidu and got 1,610,000 sightings. So yes, Uriah Heep was right. They were all over the country in a very short period of time, using drones to infect isolated herds across the country. All of the questions he posed about how this could have happened in such a rapid and organized fashion are very valid. You can fall back on the, well, they're just a bunch of bad guys scenario. Even so, my good friend and fellow writer, Dr. T.P. Wilkinson, after listening to our interview, offered an excellent retort to this lame nihilism, remarking, "Gangsters are commonly employed as agents. That was one of the pillars of the KMT. So it is entirely possible that gangsters used UAVs to spray swine flu. The link between organized crime and the secret services is marital." I love that. Well said, TP. Next, for the sordid facts about the U.S. illegally collecting China DNA in mass, I never expected to find any links in English, since this is the kind of story that the big lie propaganda machine, the BLPM, routinely disappears, especially when imperial institutions like Harvard are involved. The fact that Americans were doing this in Russia is not hard to find, because President Vladimir Putin himself complained about it bitterly, stating, "Do you know that biological material is being collected all over the country from different ethnic groups and people living in different geographical regions of the Russian Federation? The question is, why is this being done? It's being done purposefully and professionally." End of quote from President Putin. Baba Beijing, being very elliptically Taoist, has not been so forthright on the international scene. Still, Uriah backed up his claims with articles from the Chinese press. Don't ask me to translate them. You'll have to take my word for it that these articles range from 2003 to 2020, covering America's illegal DNA collection, as well as discussing the 2002-2003 SARS outbreak, which Uriah and I talked about too. When I Baidu searched the Chinese text string, 美国偷偷采集中国基因, meaning USA surreptitiously collecting Chinese DNA, it pulled up 4,600,000 sightings. So Uriah was not cherry-picking or got lucky. Now, pundits might say, yeah, but what about this claim and that claim and, Sorry, Charlie. I think I've proven my point. I'm not going to waste more of Metallica Man's frenetic writing time. He's a man on a mission. Hey, come to think of it, so am I. This is Jeff J. Brown, China Rising Radio Sino-land in Chiang Mai, signing out. Bye-bye.